to Epic Rides, where most of the time I manage to thoroughly explore a place and share it with you. This episode is a little different in that we reached our destination. However, we only ended up with 45 minutes to check it out before having to turn around and drive home. Mistakes were made. But first, on this trip, Warren Graydon and Tyler Benny have joined me for our longest adventure yet. The challenge was to drive from Lac du Bonnet to Pembina Valley Provincial Park, enjoy some corners through the valley, have a look around, and ride back to town in time for dinner. This was originally planned as a 2-day route. However, we figured, what the hell, let's do it in a day. It's only just shy of 600 kilometers, not including the ride to town from Winnipeg. What could possibly go wrong? Tyler and I left from Winnipeg at 7 a.m. This is where our first mistake was made. The temperature was already sitting at 26 degrees Celsius. By the time we reached Drifters, it was nearly 8:30 and the temperature had risen to 33 degrees. At this point, we should have realized that riding 600 kilometers on what was forecast to be the hottest day of the year so far was a very bad idea, and switched routes to one that ended at a beach, or a dock, or maybe a margarita bar. However, we're either too stubborn or too stupid to change plans, and so into soul-melting heat we rode. South on the 11 to the 214 where we cut west, and then south again to Seddon's Corner and the 44. The 44 took us west to the town of Beausejour, where we cut south again on the 302 to Highway 15, where we zigged west to Enola to Highway 12 and south to Blumenort. At Blumenort, we headed west on the 311 to the 59 highway. The 59 highway is a major artery leading from the US-Canada border all the way up to Victoria Beach. A pretty lakeside community that we likely should have visited instead, but here we are. The 59 is the second biggest border crossing in Manitoba, next to the Emerson Crossing and Highway 75. For some reason, the 59 is under a near constant state of repair, this time south of St. Malo, whereas the largest border crossing in this province, and incidentally the route that provides access to the most trucks carrying goods into our province, hasn't been repaired or even looked at in what feels like half a century. And as such, the road surface is a cratered hellscape so littered with jagged wheel-destroying, motorcycle-murdering potholes that you would be better off driving a tank, or at least some sort of off-road vehicle if you're even going to attempt it. And yet here we are. They're resurfacing the 59 again, while our biggest port of entry looks like it was bombed in some late-night blitz by an invading army. The nearest I can figure, the Highways Department must have a priceless collection of Beanie Babies or a ginormous stash of cocaine sitting in Tolstoy that they always need immediate and smooth access to. Otherwise, I would have to assume that the province has completely bungled their budget or are contracting road resurfacing jobs out to the mob. But I digress. After riding down the baby butt smooth 59 highway to the town of St. Malo, we cut west again on the 218 and then south at the 218 junction, where we meet up with Warren. At this point, the temperature has climbed to the high 30s and the wind has completely died. But the humidity levels have gone up, so while at speed it's bearable, but stopping to chat for a minute feels like climbing into a sauna. Underway once again, we meet the 201, where we head west with a bunch of wind turbines lining the fields, making for some interesting views. I love the idea of harnessing the wind's energy to create a sustainable and clean power source. especially considering that the land footprint of wind turbines is quite small. And given the amount of open farmland in southern Manitoba where farmers could potentially earn money from leasing land, I also understand the argument that wind turbines act as giant murder blenders for birds and bats apparently, which is most definitely a con to the whole process. If there are any wind turbine pros out there, I'd love to hear from you. Is wind energy the way of the future or is it unsustainable? What do you think? We head west before a quick swing south on the 30 and into Altona for an unsuccessful attempt at finding lunch. We did, however, discover ice cream and slushies, so we took a half-hour break to try and lower our core body temperatures enough to carry on with the ride. This is the second time I've been here and the second time I haven't been able to order food. To be fair, it's 1,000,000 degrees out.
Ice cream good.
Ice cream, yes.
Ice cream good.
Ice cream's good. Ice cream's very good.
And now we're gonna go again in the heat. No leather.
What's the temperature now?
Hot. I think my tires are melting on my bike while it sits here on concrete, let alone asphalt. Oh well. Now back to Noel and the weather.
After our break, we suited back up and continued west on the 201 until hitting the 32 and zigzagging back to the 201, where we discovered something unexpected and mistake number 2. Gravel road leading pretty much from the town of Osterwick all the way to the park. What we thought was asphalt was actually around 32 kilometers of dirt roads meandering through hollow crossing to the park entrance. The boys on their big heavy cruisers toughed it out for a few kilometers before deciding that another 28 or so kilometers on gravel with smooth road tires was not ideal circumstances for them. I, with my knobbly tires and penchants for gravel roads and single track, was crestfallen, but also totally understanding their reasoning. Plus, the slower speeds were beginning to cook me in my riding jacket like a chubby foil-wrapped potato, so the idea of backtracking to faster roads didn't sound like a terrible idea. Decision made, we backtracked up to the 32 and into the town of Winkler before cutting west on the 3. Continuing on the number 3, we eventually arrived at the provincial trunk Highway 31. At the junction of Highway 3 and 31, there was a little rest area, where we decided to pull over to drink some water and get into the shade for a minute or two. The temperature at this point was around 42, and we were all looking like wilted lettuce. I know, I'm bitching about the heat a lot here. I definitely need to invest in some summer mesh, so we'll call this mistake number 3. After we tired of whining about the heat, we jumped back on the bikes to experience dropping into the Pembina Valley. All I can say about this road is, I wish it was about 100 kilometers longer. It's an exhilarating ride towards the park, and my only complaint is that it doesn't last nearly long enough. The valley is spectacular, and the views are a welcome change after hours of riding through prairies. Not that the prairies aren't gorgeous as well, but sometimes change is a good thing. Much too soon, we joined back up with our old friend the 201, which, surprise, turned out to be gravel for a couple of kilometers before entering the park. The boys on their road tires gamely rode the short stretch of dirt and we finally made it to Pembina Valley Provincial Park. Unfortunately, at this point it was 3:30 in the afternoon, so our time was super limited to explore the park. We'll call this mistake number 4. Pembina Valley Provincial Park is 440 acres in size. Its purpose is to preserve areas that are representative of the Pembina and Tiger Hills natural region of Manitoba and accommodate nature-oriented recreational opportunities in the region. This park also has a unique beginning. Henry and Elma Martins, local landowners, wanted to preserve the area's natural values and provide opportunities for people to understand and appreciate the land. They thought this could be best achieved through the establishment of a provincial park. Manitoba Conservation and the Nature Conservancy of Canada joined efforts to purchase the property, and so in 2001, the Pembina Valley Provincial Park was born. The park's boulder-filled creeks that drain into the Pembina River are bordered in places with cattails and willows, while the hills towering above the creek bed are covered with dense ridges of aspen and oak forest. Mixed and tall grass prairie plants like asters, harebells, and meadow blazing stars can brighten the hiking trails. Summer winds are scented with the fragrances of wild bergamot and wild sage. Valley slopes provide choke cherries, saskatoons, wild raspberry, and pin cherries. The park is now host to hiking trails that offer picturesque vantage points of the Pembina Valley and surrounding countryside. They provide various levels of intensity, from challenging hikes to relaxing strolls. We briefly explored the trails with a promise to come back when we had more time to walk them all. However, with the heat of the day and the long ride, we were more excited about one of the park's other features: covered picnic areas, which provided a place to rest and get out of the heat before starting our long ride home. Pembina Valley Provincial Park is a gorgeous slice of Manitoba, and if you're looking for a picturesque place to spend a couple of hours or all day long, look no further than this park. If you're coming from Lac du Bonnet, I would make this a 2-day trip to give yourself enough time to explore the park in its entirety. But we're far too dumb for that. So after a short visit, we hopped on the bikes and pointed ourselves north and west again. Up that glorious stretch of road that is the 31, then east on the 3 through Morden, where we fueled up and guzzled liters of cold water from the gas station. We followed the 3 and at the 14 junction bid adieu to Warren, who was headed home. Tyler and I followed the 3 north to Carmen, then east and north again past the community of Sperling, where we encountered a massive road resurfacing project which had us travel all the way back to the perimeter highway at Winnipeg on Wiggly Corduroy. As we left from Winnipeg on this ride, and it was Father's Day, and it was approximately the same temperature as the surface of the sun, and it was already 7 p.m., we decided to pronounce this adventure dead on the table and head home instead of continuing all the way back to Lac du Bonnet. The moral of this story is that while Pembina Valley Provincial Park is spectacular, you need to plan your route to include an overnight stay along the way, so that you can appreciate the park and its beauty. We absolutely bit off more than we could chew on this ride, but it was still a super fun day, and any day I get to ride motorcycles with my friends is an awesome day for me. I just wish I could talk them into putting knobbly tires on their cruisers. That's it, that's all I've got, folks. I hope you enjoyed this ridiculous adventure as much as I did sharing it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big honkin' thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more epic rides. Until next time, explore often and explore local. Peace.